On the most holy grass of the Arabs, de Arbo Sanctissimo Arabico. Recall, O my son, the fable of the Hebrews, which they brought from the city Babylon, how Nebuchadnezzar the great king, being inflicted in the spirit, did depart from among men for 7 years' space, eating grass as doth an ox. Now this ox is the letter Aleph, and is that Atu of Thoth, whose number is 0, and whose name is Mach, truth or moth, the vulture, the all-mother, being an image of Our Lady Nuit, but also it is called the fool, who is Parsifal, Ederen Tori, and so referred to him that walketh in the way of the Tao. Also he is Arpocrates, the child Horus, walking, as saith Daoud, the Badawi who became king in his Psalms, upon the lion and the dragon, that is, he is in unity with his own secret nature, as I have shewn thee in my word concerning the Sphinx. O my son, yestereve came in spirit upon me, that I also should eat the grass of the Arabs, and by virtue of the bewitchment thereof, behold that which might be appointed for the enlightenment of mine eyes. Now then, of this may I not speak, seeing that it involveth the mystery of the transcending of time, so that in 1 hour of our terrestrial measure did I gather the harvest of an aeon, and in 10 lives I could not declare it.
On certain mysteries I have seen, de quibusdam mysteriis vide. Yet even as a man set up a memorial or symbol to import 10,000 times 10,000, so may I strive to inform thine understanding by hieroglyph, and here shall thine own experience serve us, because a token of remembrance suffereth him that is familiar with a matter, which to him that knoweth it not should not be made manifest, no, not in a year of instruction. Here first then is one amidst the uncounted wonders of the vision. Upon a field blacker and richer than velvet was the sun of all being alone. Then about him were little crosses, Greek overrunning the heavens. These changed form to form geometrical, marvel devouring marvel, 1,000 times 1,000 in their course and sequence, until by their movement was the universe churned into the quiescence of light. Moreover, at another time did I behold all things as boule, iridescent and luminous, self-shining in every color, myriad pursuing myriad, until by their perpetual beauty they exhausted the virtue of my mind to receive them, and whelmed it, so that I was fain to withdraw myself from the burden of that brilliance. Yet, O my son, the sun of all this amounteth not to the worth of one dawn glimmer of our true vision of holiness.
On a certain method of meditation, de quorum modo meditationis. Now for the chief of that which was granted unto me, it was the apprehension of those willed changes or transmutations of the mind which lead unto truth, being as ladders unto heaven, or so I called them at that time, seeking for a phrase to admonish the scribe that attended on my words, to grave a balustre upon the stele of my working. But I make effort in vain, O my son, to record this matter in detail, for it is the quality of the grass to quicken the operation of thought, it may be thousandfold, and moreover to figure each step in images complex and overpowering in beauty, so that one hath no time wherein to conceive, much less to utter, any word for a name or any of them. Also such was the multiplicity of these ladders and their equivalents, that the memory holdeth no more than any one of them, but only a certain comprehension of the method, wordless by reason of its subtility. Now therefore must I make by my will a concentration mighty and terrible of my thought, that I may bring forth this mystery in expression. For this method is of virtue and profit. By it mayst thou come easily and with delight to the perfection of truth. It is no odds from what thought thou makest to the first leap in thy meditation, so that thou mayst know how every road endeth in Mansalvat and the temple of the Sangral.
Further on this, sequitur de acre. I believe generally on ground both of theory and experience, so little as I have, that a man must first be initiate and established in our law before he may use this method, for in it is an implication of our secret enlightenment concerning the universe, how its nature is utterly perfection. Now every thought is a separation, and the medicine of that is to marry each one with its contradiction, as I have shewed formerly in many writings, and thou shalt clap the one to the other with vehemence of spirit, swiftly as light itself, that the ecstasy be spontaneous. So therefore it is expedient that thou have travelled already in this path of antithesis, knowing perfectly the answer to every glyph or problem, and thy mind ready therewith. For by the property of this grass all passeth with speed incalculable of wit, and an hesitation should confound thee, breaking down thy ladder and throwing back thy mind to receive impression from environment. As at thy first beginning, verily, the nature of this method is solution, and the destruction of every complexity by explosion of ecstasy, as every element thereof is fulfilled by its correlative and is annihilated, since it loseth separate existence in the orgasm that is consummated within the bed of thy mind.
Further concerning this matter, sequitur de hacri. Thou knowest right well, O my son, how a thought is imperfect in two dimensions, being separate from its contradiction, but also constrained in its scope, because by that contradiction we do not commonly complete the universe, save only that of its discourse. Thus, if we contrast health with sickness, we include in their sphere of union no more than one quality that may be predicated of all things. Furthermore, it is for the most part not easy to find or to formulate the true contradiction of any thought as a positive idea, but only as a formal negation in vague terms, so that his ready answer is but the antithesis. Thus, to white, one putteth not the phrase, all that which is not white, for this is void, formless, neither clear, simple, nor positive in conception, but one answereth black, for this hath an image of his significance. So the cohesion of antitheticals destroyeth them only in part, and one becometh instantly conscious of the residue that is unsatisfied or unbalanced, whose eidolon leapeth in thy mind with splendor and joy unspeakable. Let not this deceive thee, for its existence proveth its imperfection, and thou must call forth its mate, and destroy them by love, as with the former. This method is continuous, and proceedeth ever from the gross to the fine, and from the particular to the general, dissolving all things into the one substance of light.
Conclusion on this method of holiness. Conclusio de hac modo sanctitatis. Learn now that impression of sense have opposites readily conceived, as long to short, or light to dark, and so with emotions and perceptions, as love to hate, or false to true. But the more violent is the antagonism, the more is it bound in illusion, determined by relation. Thus, the word long hath no meaning save it be referred to a standard, but love is not thus obscure, because hate is its twin, partaking bountifully of a common nature therewith. Now, hear this. It was given unto me in my visions of the aethers, when I was in the wilderness of Sahara, by Tolga, that above the abyss, contradiction is unity, and that nothing could be true, save by virtue of the contradiction that is contained in itself. Behold, therefore, in this method, thou shalt come presently to ideas of this order, that include in themselves their own contradiction, and have no antithesis. Here, then, is thy lever of antinomy, broken in thine hand, yet, being in true balance, thou mayest soar, passionate and eager, from heaven to heaven, by the expansion of thine idea,
and its exaltation, of concentration, as thou understandest, by the studies of the book of the law, the word thereof concerning Our Lady Nuit, and Hadit, that is the core of every star. And this last going upon thy ladder is easy, if thou be truly initiate, for the momentum of thy force in transcendental antithesis serveth to propel thee in the emancipation from the fetters of thought that thou hast won in that proxies of art maketh the whirlpool and gravitation of truth of competence to draw thee unto itself.
On the way of the sun, de via sola solis, this is the profit of mine intoxication of this holy herb, the grass of the Arab, that it has shewed me this mystery, with many others, not as a new light, for I had that aforetime, but by its swift synthesis and manifestation of a long sequence of events in a moment. I had wit to analyze this method, and to discover its essential law, which before had escaped the focus of the lens of mine understanding. Yea, O my son, there is no true path of light, save that which I have formerly made plain. Yet in every path is profit, if thou be cunning to perceive it and to clasp it. For we win truth oftentimes by reflection or by the composition and selection of an artist in his presentation thereof, when else we were blind thereunto, lacking his mode of light. Yet were that art of none avail unless we had already the root of that truth in our nature, and a bud ready to flower at the summoning of that sun. In witness, nor a boy nor a stone hath knowledge of the sections of a cone and their properties, but thou mayest teach these to the boy by right presentation, because he hath in his nature those laws of mind that are consonant with our art mathematical, and hath need only of the fledgling, I may say his, so that he apply them consciously to the work, when all being in truth, that is, in the necessary relations that rule our illusion, he cometh in course to apprehension.
On the prudence of AA, de prudentia, fraternitatis AA. Hear then, O my son, that shall be mightier than all the kings of the earth, as it is prophesied, and thou be he, because thou shalt establish the law which I have given, even the law of Thelema. Here in this which I have written is a point of judgment in thy work, to bring into the light of initiation such as come unto thee, affirming their will to his attainment. For every one hath his own path and his own law, and there is no art in magic but to seek out that path and that law, that he may pursue the one by the right use of the other. It shall be that one cometh unto thee desiring Amen-Ra. I speak in a figure, or exemplar, another Asi, a third Hur-Pakra, or again one seeketh instruction in Obeah, and his fellow in Wanga, and of these not 1 in 10,000 shall be aware of his true way. For albeit our last step is one for all, yet his next stem is particular to each. Therefore is the preparation of the student that seeketh our holy order of AA most general, informing his mind of all known methods, so that his will may select among these by instinct. Then after, as a probationer, he practiseth those which he hath preferred, and by the examination of his record after the period appointed, thou mayest have wisdom concerning him, to confirm him in those ways which are shewed thereby to be germane to his true nature.
More on this path. Altera de sua via. Thus I was brought unto the knowledge of myself in a certain secret grace, and as a poet, by Jerome Paulet of Kendal, Oscar Eckenstein of the Mountain discovered manhood in me, teaching me to endure hardship, and to dare many shapes of death. Also he nurtured me in concentration, the art of the mystics, but in science without lumber of theology. Alan Bennett bestowed upon me the right art of magic and our holy Kabbalah, with a great treasure of learning in many matters, but especially concerning Egypt and Asia, the mystery of their arcane wisdom. But of Cecil Jones had I the great gift of the holy magic of Abramelin, and he inducted me into that order which we name not, because of the silliness of the profane that pretend thereto, and he brought me to the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Also, he was the herald of masters of the temple, when they bade me welcome to their order, appointing a siege for me in the city of the pyramids, under the night of Pan, but for 3 years I was not willing to avail myself thereof. Now mark well this, O my son, that this path was peculiar to the law of my star, and none other should follow me herein, or seek to follow me, for he hath his own proper orbit. O my son, err not by generalization and conformity, for this is of very idleness, and breedeth ideals and standards that are death.
In the prudence of the art of teaching, de prudentia artis doxeni. Nevertheless, this one affliction shall touch nigh all that come to thee, and that is this great pox of sin. That is our bane inherited of the aeon of slain gods. Look the first of all, when any postulant boweth before thee, whether there be not conflict and restriction in his mind and in his will, if he deem good and evil to be absolute, instead of as relative to the health of his body, or the weal of the society of which he is a member, or what not as it may be, instruct him. Or, if he will, say that he will sacrifice all for initiation, correct him, as it is written, but whoso gives one particle of dust shall lose all in that hour. For it is the conflict if he weigh one thing with another, and renunciation, being sorrowful, is not worthy of acceptance, but he must with joy unite all that he is and hath, heaping the whole into one billow of love under will. Yea, O my son, until thou hast brought the postulant into our freedom from sin, and the sense and conviction thereof, he is not ready for the path of our magic and illumination, because every way soever is a going, and his sin is an obstacle and a fetter and a hoodwink on every one of them, for it is restriction, whether he set out by the meditations of the Dhamma, or by our Kabbalah, or by the vision or theurgy, or how else soever.
On the mind, enemy of the soul. De mente inimica animo. How shall a man attain to the trance where all is one, if he yet debate within his mind concerning virtue as a thing absolute? Thus, O my son, there be those that are fuddled with doubt whether meat is to be eaten. I choose this as a reference. Which habit is proper to the lion, as grass to the horse, so that his right problem is solely thus, what is fitting to his own nature. Or again, I suppose that he is in vision, and an angel, visiting him, imparteth a truth contrary to his prejudice, as it fell out in mine own case, when I inhabited the body of Sir Edward Kelly, or so do I in part remember, as it seemeth dimly. This nevertheless is sure, or the learned Casaubon, publishing the record of that word with the magician Dee, saith falsely, that an angel did declare unto Kelly the very axiomata of our law of Thelema, in good measure and plainly, but Dee, afflicted by the fixity of his tenets that were of the salve gods, was wroth, and by his authority prevailed upon the other, who was indeed not wholly perfected as an instrument, or the world ready for that sowing. Consider also how in this very life I was the enemy of mine own law, and wrote down the book of the law contrary to my conscious will by the virtue of obedience as a scribe, and strove constantly to escape mine own work, and the utterance of my word, until by initiation I was made all one.
On different works of the Illuminators. De Illuminatorum Operibus Diversus. Do thou then understand how few be they whose work in this their present lives is our way of initiation. Yet it is written in the book of the law that the law is for all, so that thou shalt in no wise err if thou establish it as the formula of the aeon, universal among men. Also, even for them that are fitted to advance in our light, there is order and diversity in function. As regardeth their work in our sublime brotherhood, thus it might well be that in a profess house of the temple or college of the Holy Ghost, each knight or brother might severally attain experience of every trance, unto the perfection of all illumination. Yet by this there ought not confusion to be confected, one usurping the appointed office of another. For the abbot, although he be not enlightened wholly, is yet abbot, and the place of the cook, where he saint, Arhan, and Paramahamsa in one person, is in his kitchen. Confound not thou in any wise therefore the degree of attainment of any man with his right function in our holy order. For right by initiation cometh the light, and the right and the might to accomplish all work soever. Yet these are inoperative, save as they are able to use a machine which is of the same order of things as the effect required. Even the best swordsmanship hath need a sword. So hath every magician of a body and mind capable to work that he willeth, and he can do nothing save it be proper to his nature.
Further words on this. De eadem re altera verba. By this understanding, be they rebuked that make a reproach to our art, saying in their insolence that if we have all power, why are we betimes in stress of poverty, and in contempt of men, and in pain of disease, and so forth, mocking us, and holding our magic for delusion. But they behold not our light, how it guided us in our path unto a goal that is not in their comprehension, so that we crave not that which seemeth to them the sole food and comfort of life. Also, this which we attain, though it be the essence of omniscience and omnipotence, informeth and moveth the material world, so to call it, only according to the nature of that which is therein. For the light of the sun, by his very wholeness itself, sheweth a rose red, but a leaf green, and his heat gathereth the cloud, and disperseth them also. So I then, though I were perfect in magic, might not work in metals as a smith, or become rich by commerce as a merchant. For I have not in my nature the engines proper to these capacities, and therefore it is not of my will to seek to exercise them. Here then is my case, that I cannot because I will not, and it were conflict, should I turn thither. But let every man become perfect in his own work, not heeding the rebuke of another, that some way not his own is more noble or profitable, but being constant in mindfulness concerning his business.
Of perfect peace in light, de pace perfecta luce. How shall they measure our status and our success? By that canon of relation and illusion, in their ignorance of our nature. Time is but sequence, in a moment of light, outweighed an age of darkness. What is happiness but the issue of the harmony of our consciousness with our truth, and the conformity of will with action? To the initiate is certainty of his fulfillment, which to the profane is but the effect of hazard. And he feareth to lose what he loveth, or thinketh he loveth. But we, loving only in light, suffer not by fear or by bereavement, because to us every event is welcome, being right, necessary, and proper to our particular path. The knowledge of this one matter is the end of dread and of regret. Make it the governor of thy mind, to rule its pace, lest it hasten or lag by stress of thy environment. Now this attainment is possible for all mankind, since it asketh but resolution of complexities that already exist, so that this true wisdom and happiness cometh by the acceptance of our law, and its use is the key to all locked doors of the mind, and the reconcilement of every contention. O my son, in the promulgation of the law lieth the reward of our chief work, the making whole of mankind from the conscience of sin which divided him and afflicted his spirit.
On perfect peace, de pace perfecta. O my son, is it not a marvel, this light whereof we are the quintessence and the seed? By it are we made whole, dissolved in the body and in the soul of Our Lady Nuit, even as her Lord Hadith, so that the Gnostic sacrament of the cosmos is perpetually elevated before us. We behold all that is, and comprehend its mystery and its order in this high mass eternally celebrated among us, acknowledging the perfection of the rite, neither confusing the parts thereof, nor discriminating in worship between them. So unto us is every phenomenon a show of godliness, proceeding continually in a pageant that returneth unto itself, identical in the phase of not as of many, but whirling in the orgia of ineffable holiness, as it were a dance that weaveth figures of beauty and variety inexhaustible. Shall the initiate bestir him to better so prime a perfection? Nay, this will that was his is accomplished. He hath attained the summit, so without hope or fear he abideth, and leaveth his vehicle of illusion and magical engine. That is, as men say, his body and mind, to work out their ritual of change without his interference. O my son, ask not to what end, as it is written in the book of the heart girt with the serpent, concerning the boy and the swan. Is there not joy ineffable in this aimless winging?
On death, de morte. Thou hast made question of me concerning death, and this is my opinion, of which I say naught. This is the truth. First, in the temple called man is the God, his soul or star, individual and eternal, but also inherent in the body of Our Lady Nuit. Now this soul, as an officer in the high mass of the cosmos, taketh on the vesture of his office, that is, inhabiteth a tabernacle of illusion, a body and mind. And this tabernacle is subject to the law of change, for it is complex and diffuse, reacting to every stimulus or impression. If then the mind be attached constantly to the body, death hath not power to decompose it wholly, but a decaying shell of the dead man, his mind holding together for a little his body of light haunteth the earth, seeking in its error that feareth change, a new tabernacle in some other body. These shells are broken away utterly from the star that did enlighten them, and they are vampires, obsessing them that adventure themselves into the astral world without magical protection, or invoke them, as do the spiritists. For by death is man released only from the gross body at the first, and is complete otherwise upon the astral plane, as he was in his life. But in this wholeness suffereth stress, and its girders are loosed, the weaker first, and after that the stronger.
On the eschatology of the RC adepts, De Adeptus RC Eschatologia. Consider now in this light what shall come to the adept, to him that hath aspired constantly and firmly to his star, attuning the mind unto the music of his will. In him, if his mind be knit perfectly together in itself, and conjoined with the star, is so strong a conflection that it breaketh away easily not only from the gross body, but the fine. It is this fine body which bindeth it to the astral, as did the gross to the material world. So then it accomplisheth willingly the sacrament of the second death, and leaveth the body of light. But the mind cleaveth closely, by right of its harmony, and might of its love to its star, resideth the ministers of disruption for a season, according to its strength. Now, if this star be of those that are bound by the great oath, incarnating without remission because of delight in the cosmic sacrament, it seeketh a new vehicle in the appointed way, and indwelleth the fetus of a child, and quickeneth it. And if at this time the mind of its former tabernacle yet cling to it, then is there continuity of character, and it may be memory between two vehicles. This is briefly and without elaboration the way of a Sar in Amenti according to mine opinion, of which I say not. This is truth.
Thelema truth.